Hello everybody and welcome to RaceSpotTV Primetime here for the final season of 2021. This time it's the VRS GT Sprint Series with the first round here from Road Atlanta, a circuit that hosts Petit Le Mans most often throughout the year, most famously throughout the year, but that's 10 hours long and we've only got 40 minutes here today for these guys to sort themselves out and get towards the front. We're using the beautiful GT3 machinery on show here by iRacing here once again, and of course broadcasted by RaceSpotTV. My name is Ewan O'Leary alongside Stefan Slacker in the commentary box with Connery Maddock behind the cameras. Stefan, it's fantastic to be along with you here tonight. Very much looking forward to it. We've got a great list of different cars, first of all, but we've also got a list of great drivers as well. An absolute, list of talent, let's say.
Yeah, most definitely, Ewan. We have the likes of Jamie Fluke and many other high R-rating guys. By the way, the lowest R-rating right now is 4,100. Just to give you a number right there. So really hard to get into this top split. We're really looking forward to a very great racing at the very great Road Atlanta.
We are indeed. Let's have a look at the circuits we're visiting here, and it's iconic circuits everywhere, to be honest. Motegi is next week out. I'm looking forward to the Hungaroring, to seeing how that's raced. A fairly new addition to the iRacing service. We've also got the likes of Nürburgring, Suzuka, Barcelona, Bathurst. Some of those towards the end are particularly iconic. Finishing with the Circuit de la Sarthe right at the end on the 3rd of December when we finish the final season of 2021 here on iRacing. So plenty of tracks to be looking forward to. A couple of odd ones as well, like Tsukuba and Homestead notably, but very much looking forward to seeing all of those and seeing how they race. And I'm also very interested to see how a sprint race at Road Atlanta will work. We don't often see this very often, Stefan, because as I mentioned at the start, the 10 hours of Petit Le Mans is where we most often visit this circuit. And I don't often see sprint racing around here, so it could get very, very tight and very, very physical maybe when these guys have to race on such a narrow circuit with such a little time frame to actually go racing in.
Oh yeah, well, we're most definitely going to see a little bit of the nitty-gritty in the first quarter of the race, especially turn 1, 2, 3, 4, that section all the way down to turn number 5 through the assets. That's going to really be the make or break for many of those people, because the pack is still tightly together. That's where you still can make passes, because let's face it, Road Atlanta is the real endurance race. Track. It's really hard to make passes happen in the GT3. Your main overtaking point is right here where we see this Porsche driving down towards right now. That turn 10A and B section, that's exactly where we are going to see Oscar Rene probably trying to do his best to overtake people, because realistically speaking, that's your only chance to make a pass here.
It is indeed. Let's have a look at his time over the line right now. Second place as he finishes there, 1 minute 16.9. Still nowhere near Alejandro Sanchez, who's absolutely flying out there at the moment, I can tell you. In another one of those Porsches, World Championship driver, of course, 1 of 2 on the grid, as you mentioned, Stefan, but 3/10 around this kind of circuit, that's huge already.
Yeah, it very much is huge, especially in GT3 cars. So really gonna be interesting how that's gonna play out come the race, because 3/10, that can be the make or break between you being able to drive away from the rest of the field versus you having to fight with the rest of the field, as Scott Brazier puts his number 10 in 27th as he goes across the line.
Yeah, most of those front runners are actually in the pit lane at the moment. The top 9 look pretty settled where they are, to be quite honest, but there could be some changes later on as we go on board with this plunge downhill through the famous S's. Very, very tricky in multi-class traffic because you can't actually get anywhere if you're a prototype, but that's not going to be an issue for them today. It just means that they won't really be able to overtake down there, which is a little bit of a problem. If you're behind someone particularly slow, as Jelle Walters gets up into 5th position in the number 7 BMW. At the moment it's all Porsches and BMWs covering the first 3 rows of the grid. Then we've got our first Ferrari coming in 7th. Gio Hook is in that 7th position in the number 9 car, so he's outperforming that Ferrari just a little bit, you might say, getting up there towards the top 5. But here's Scott Brazier still down towards the final couple of corners, which I think is a little bit ridiculously called 10A and 10B. It's just a simple chicane. He's very clearly backed off here though. Seems to be in 27th for good, as we've only got 1 minute left in qualifying. So these positions look pretty settled here, Stefan, but as you can see around the night sky at the moment, it's getting quite dusk. It's going to get quite dark later on. Apart from making our jobs a lot easier, how's that? A lot harder. How is that going to affect these guys here today in the race?
Yeah, it's also going to make the racing harder for these guys, because all your turn-in points, or your points that you normally take, acceleration, turning and stuff like that, they are going to vanish as well, and you're going to have to look for things that are in your headlights that you can see that are also your braking points, turning points and stuff like that. So it changes the driving a little bit. You're going to get more focus on the track itself, because that's where you're mainly going to find those points. So that's your main lookout for that. And by the way, since you were saying it's ridiculous that turns 10A and B are there, let's not get started on that topic, because we're at Road Atlanta. No turn number makes sense here.
No, we could spend the entire 40 minutes talking about it, but we're not going to. But just look it up on Google. It is a little bit ridiculous. Anyway, let's have a look at your starting grid for this 40-minute race, because it's got a list of greats right up towards the front, starting with Alejandro Sanchez, who's demolished the field. Oskari Rinne for Finland has got up there onto the front row. A great lap late on from him. Patrick Heinrich was demoted to the second row along with Jamie Fluke. Then we've got Jelle Walters and Rocco Barone in the 5th and 6th positions respectively in the 7 and the 3. Then we have Gio Hook Im in 7th ahead of Kim Salverson. Jaden Leidik is in 9th ahead of Sirvok Navi. Yannick Lorenz is in 11th ahead of Artem Grabau. In the number 12, in 12th position, which has pleasing symmetry to it. Then in 13th position, we've got Gabriel Couto ahead of Josh Poulin. That's there on the 7th row together. Franco Ruggieri is in 15th ahead of Matthew Crisp in 16th. Christian Gruber is alongside Antonio Samarco, in 17th and 18th. In 19th and 20th, it's Paolo Arujo and Gianpaolo Filippi Cristini rounding out your top 20. Then John Vettendorf, Kash Patel, Anthony Farrell, Zebi Plar next, and then Eric Mutwill, Zhao Brits, Scott Brazier, John Derrick and Daniel Muff rounding off your 29 car grid, and all of them seem to be absolute mouthfuls of names, which is not helpful, but the GT3 cars are now indeed ready, as you can see. The Porsche, BMW and Ferrari most notably up towards the front, Lamborghini nestled in the back there, and we even have a Mercedes further down the order here as well. So these guys are going to have a little bit of time to compose themselves here, Stefan, but it's going to be 40 minutes of very high physicality racing. There can be no doubt about that. There's not much space to move around here.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be high physicality. There is going to be at least a little bit of a rub and a run, if not even a touch or bump and run. And you kind of have to say it also, it's the first race of this new season, and we're seeing a lot of cars out here. There's realistically only 2 cars that are missing from this grid. It's the McLaren, and also, not allowed to forget, the Ford GT.
The famous Ford. We had one in the Spa 24 Hours, if you remember, and they did get to the finish, I believe, which was a very honourable result. They finished many laps down, but it was very nice indeed to see that car out there. But won't be winning the race here today. Won't be winning many races up and down the iRacing service throughout ever really at this point. But there we are. It's still nice to see that it is in circulation to a few. As you can see now, working their way down the S's. For this formation lap, Alejandro Sanchez leading the field around one of 2 World Championship drivers. Jamie Fluke is in 4th place. I've got to say, he's arguably the most recognisable name on the grid here, Stefan. But were you surprised with only 4th place? Is he going to come to the fore during the race, or were you surprised as well at his qualifying performance?
No, normally Jamie Fluke can qualifying, so I'm not surprised whatsoever that we'll find him in 4th place. 4th place still is very good. It was a very great performance in qualifying by Sanchez. If you take out Sanchez, it is only 6 100ths of a second that cover 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. So it still is a very great performance by everybody up in front. However, one thing we have to talk about if we're speaking about Jamie Fluke is his fuel-saving capabilities, because Jamie Fluke is no stranger to trying to do a VRS GT Sprint race on a single tank of fuel. So might have to look out for that he tries to fuel save his way to the end.
Very good point indeed, and we're going to be keeping our beady eye on his clutch pedal actually, because he might be doing a little bit of that on the way down into turn 10A particularly, which is a very good place for fuel saving, especially if you're in the draft around here. Let's wait and see though, there's a long way around here for 40 minutes, so we will be able to see in approximately 40 minutes time who or whether he will have made it or not. Let's wait and see. He may well not be trying it at all, but all of those questions are going to be answered over the next few moments. The pace car pulls in and we are ready to go racing. Already Alejandro Sanchez hits the gas and we are racing at Road Atlanta for the VRS GT Sprint Series. He's already clear of the field. Oskari Rene is in second place. Patrick Heinrich is battling with Jamie Fluke side by side into turn number 1. The BMW tries to hang it around the outside, but it's a long way around there. He can't make it work, and so he's going to have to stick in behind. Patrick Heinrich gets into the top 3. Yellow Volters is ahead of Yoko Baroni, and it looks like the top 7 or 8 or so even have stayed single file, have stayed in the same positions they were before. A very clean start at the front, a couple of wiggles in the midfield, but it looks like everybody's made it through cleanly.
Yeah, very much so. Everybody through cleanly. Everybody so far, even single file. So a great start by the drivers right now. But this is where it counts. You are single file. You might have to get that good run right now. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck behind those drivers ahead of you for ages. So Jamie Fluke in number 1. Can he do something to get himself onto the podium right now?
Yeah, let's see. Does he even want to go through at this point? Let's wait and see. It's going to have to be a late one under brakes, and for the moment he's deciding not to. Yellow Volters is lurking on him behind as well, so he'll just be watching as Hamrick and Fluke sort of battle this one out. But it's a Porsche 1, 2 and 3 right now, with Alejandro Sanchez leading the first lap of this race. Oskari Rene is in second position ahead of Patrick Heinrich, as we mentioned, in those top 3 for the Porsche. A few guys pitting in the background, I'm afraid. Jibi Pla, João Brites, Kash Patel and Eric Mutchfield have all had problems on this opening lap. I believe that Pla is actually already out of this race, so it looks like it wasn't quite clean for absolutely everybody. The most part of the field got through all right, but it's hardly surprising to see, especially at a track like Road Atlanta, which has such a difficult opening section.
Yeah, there was actually a little bit of a start crash in the very back of the field. That's why these guys are already in the pits, as there's another crash I hear in turn number 5. Franco Ruggieri in the gravel there.
It looks like it, yeah, just getting going again, as you can see, and it looks like Valverson dropping down the order quite rapidly there on your timing screen. So many things have been going on here in the last few moments. This is the side-by-side battling with Franco Ruggieri earlier on. Let's see, a bit of bumping and barging between himself and one of the BMWs.
Oh my goodness.
And in the end, it's a very long and drawn-out spin, but miraculously he hasn't hit anyone, or he hasn't hit anything majorly.
And then also Yohuk Im had an issue, just self-spin and a 27, no way to avoid that. And more people run into the back of those guys. So very unfortunate right there, stack up, nothing the guys in behind could do, just run into the back, unsighted there whatsoever.
And there's not much space either side when somebody goes for a spin here for you to actually nip around, because as we mentioned earlier, it's very narrow around here, so it's those kind of things can happen, and I'm afraid they have for a few of these guys, which is a real shame, especially for him, who is having a great run in the Ferrari, which has very little representation up towards the front, but he's now down in the pit lane and indeed out of this race already after only 2 laps. We just saw as well Ladik getting through on Artem Gerbau for 7th position, that is. A big battle going on between all of those guys actually over the last few moments. As you can see, it's all starting to stack up behind, and the top 6 have begun to get away already. Here led by Sanchez, and Rocco Baroni is trying to hold on to those guys up in front, but Sanchez is starting to pull a bit of a lead here, 1 second now, and that's getting increasingly large. It's going to mean that Oskari Rene is going to feel the effects of the draft less and less, and he's going to continue to struggle more and also lose time even quicker at this point, as he starts to lose the draft even more.
Yeah, most definitely, and at this point you can pretty much say Rene is out of the draft of Sanchez, especially on a short straighted track like Road Atlanta is 1.5 seconds pretty much out of the draft already, because the effect is so slim that it only really catches on at the long straights of, for example, Daytona. So Oscar Irene all fighting on his lonesome now against Heinrich and Flug in behind.
Yes, a big battle starting to develop here. Yellow Volters is watching on behind, just giving himself a car length's safety, really, in case something goes wrong. He's at a distance where he would be able to get out of the way if something were to befall any one of these three guys in front of him, but I doubt it, given the standard of drivers that we actually have up towards the front right now. Sanchez leads by 1.7 seconds as they head down towards 10.8. Is Heinrich close enough for a dive? It would be a little bit stupendous 5 minutes into the race, so he decides to just stay behind for the moment, with Jamie Flug watching on behind as well. But most importantly, saving fuel, and that could prove crucial towards the end of this race. And all of these guys have got to be wary of that, but there's not an awful lot they can do about Flug actually saving fuel here, because after all, he's controlling his own throttle pedal, and nobody else has got any control over it. So these two in front are, if Flug is indeed fuel saving, these two in front are in a very sticky situation, you have to say.
Yeah, well, most definitely Flug. I mean, even if Flug isn't right now majorly saving fuel and just running in behind, you know, not attacking, ever slightly lifting off the throttle, or better said, letting off the throttle, so he stays equal distance to the car in front, while not letting the car behind catch up to him enough to make a pass happen. That is still fuel that is being saved right there, and that means a shorter pit stop time in the very end. So right now, Jamie Flug in a very great position to make work on these two guys through strategy and hoping to overtake them like this. But also, that is obviously true for Walters in behind, who has the triple drop from the cars ahead. He can very much stay behind as well and save that precious fuel. And, you know, we might have in the very end a 2-3 for BMW instead of a 1-2-3 for Porsche.
That really would be a turn up for the books, especially considering what we're seeing right now. Is it not also inconceivable as well because I guess especially if you're fuel saving, we're pretty much in the pit window already. Somebody could pit early if you're struggling to get through on somebody like Patrick Heinrich right now, trying to get through on Ascari Green. If he's struggling to do that, maybe an early pit stop and a bit of an undercut for him would work. Or would you try and keep as little fuel as possible in that car for as long as possible in this race? Are we going to see these guys going long, or is anybody going to gamble and pit very, very early?
Unless there is a real opening starting to happen in the midfield where these guys can abuse that for 4, 5, 6 laps, they're all gonna stay out until the very last drop of their car, just because you're not gonna be able to pass, and if you have to pass on one, you're gonna lose time anyway. So I don't expect anybody to try to gamble for the undercut, but in some tracks it actually is working. It is working that undercut, so we might see in some other occasions to people to try that undercut as the 14 goes to the inside. Josh Lane, that's a touch as well.
It's just a small touch, but it's had disastrous consequences, I'm afraid, for Artem Grabau's got back onto the road again now, but he's down in 16th, and that's going to be very disappointing as Scott Brazier homes in behind and might even try his luck here. Let's wait and see what happened between these two. Was there a bit of a squeeze, or was there a bit of just a misjudgment from Grabau? Let's wait and see. Look at those right-hand side wheels. Oh, there was a bit of a touch there. Definitely a bit of a touch. It was so slight, but the consequences have been really, really disastrous for Artem Grabau.
Yeah, Grabov there ever so slightly coming to the left, and Poulain ever so slightly coming to the right, and these two guys meet in the middle, and Grabov with a way worse ending than Poulain there. Very, very awkward racing incident there in the very end, obviously with the bad end to Grabov, that number 12 now down into 16th position.
Very, very disastrous consequences. The finest margins in motorsport, it really is. And that's just been writ large for us all here once again. The gap at the front of the race, 2.5 seconds now. Alejandro Sanchez continues to extend this margin. He goes over the line here once again with a 1 minute 17.4, and he's comfortably a couple of tenths quicker than Oscar Irene, as he has been for, well, pretty much since this race started, to be quite honest with you. We're nearly 10 minutes in, and that is the kind of gap that he can produce. We're seeing him produce 3/10 of a second gaps here in qualifying, and he's doing that on most of the field here once again in the race, just showing his absolute class here today. And unless Jamie Fluke, or indeed anybody for that matter, is on a bit of a fuel saving strategy here, it's almost difficult to see him being caught even this early on.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say that Rinne, as he goes way over the gravel and takes a few jumps there as well. Sanchez's car just looks so much more on rails than Oscar Rinne and all the cars behind. So most definitely Sanchez in his sweet spot right now. He really loves to drive that car right now. He does everything exactly like he wants to do, and that's why he's able to extend this gap continuously by 3, 4, 5 tenths per lap right now. And it speaks volume, because also then you're using your tires less. That means your tires are going to be fresher for the end of the stint as well, when you're going to have that fast lap times because of the low fuel as well. We have another dive to the inside between 12th and 13th place. That's Cristini going around the outside.
And he's getting that position back from Pablo Arujas, who has just got through on him not so long ago. And now the big defence, look at that, from Cristini. Very, very well defending into turn 1. The Lamborghini's going to try and hang it around the outside, but as we've seen earlier on, it's a long way round there, and so Arujas is going to have to stay behind here just for the moment. Clobbers that curve, but he's just about got away with it. A very interesting moment and a very big send, I have to say, from the Porsche there. But these two are having a fantastic battle. Two different cars, of course, on show, and all the strengths and weaknesses converging perfectly for a very entertaining battle.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, there's a spin up ahead.
Couto looks like the 22 Porsche of Gabriel Couto, who's just gone for a spin. I believe he was side by side with one of the cars. Very carefully rejoins, and fair play to him, because there was a lot of cars coming. Let's wait and see. Now, was this in a battle or was it on his own? He's got a 10th place very close behind him, now 9th of Siva. They're already bumping and banging. Let's have a look at these two into the right-hand.
Misjudged it.
Just a misjudgment from Navi, and he gets straight into the back of Couto.
Oh, that's a heavy impact as well into the barrel from Couto. Let's have a look there once again from Navi. Yeah, just too late on the brakes. Gives it that slight touch, and that's all you need right there. Such a fast left-hander, a right-hander with barely any runoff there, except for the downhill grass. And that's not gonna make any job there trying to stop you. So Couto with a heavy impact. I'd be surprised if that car is still driving 100% straight.
Yes, I would be as well. He has carried on past the pit lane this time around, though, so he's soldiering on for the moment, but we'll see how long he can actually keep that up. He's down in what I believe is 19th position right now, so a long way back at this stage in the race, but you know, you never know what can happen. He might be able to get up at the order a couple more positions even with that damaged car. Let's wait and see as we go back to the front of the race, because there's a few more car lengths starting to open up here. It's not the tightly packed racing we saw 5 minutes ago here, Stefan. It's very much at least 3 car lengths between all of these cars right now, so limited draft effect, but also very much content to sit with each other. And since that actually happened, they have started to stop the bleeding of Alejandro Sanchez, who's been racing out front at the moment, but that's stopped going out quite so much in the last few moments.
Yeah, maybe that, or Sanchez just settled a little bit there. Oh, there was a bit of a touch there between the Porsche and the Ferrari. Maybe he just settled back a little bit, dialed down the speed just a tad, and just controls that gap right now back to Rinne, as the number 16 of Lorenz just lost 2 positions there to Couto and Derek.
Goodness me, Couto very much in the wars today, and bumping and banging me once again. I'm afraid because a little bit wide there, and now there could be a bit of an opportunity for Yannick Lorenz to get through, but this is where he came unstuck last time, Couto, so he's going to be very careful not to get rear-ended there once again, and manages it this time around. But that doesn't mean that the car behind of Lorenzo's not got a good run there. He's actually tucked right up towards the rear wing of that Porsche now, and weaving all around to try and defend here, but there might not be much that Kuto can do, although Lorenz is not really close enough for any kind of move into turns 10A and 10B, excuse me, and so they stay where they are for the moment. Often though, we're seeing that these midfield and these battles closer towards the rear of the field are actually getting a lot closer to than ones or those at the front, excuse me, because those at the front have still got their eyes on winning the race, but these guys are just trying to gain positions willy-nilly all they can, and it often does produce slightly better racing, it has to be said.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of that, Gianpaolo Filippo Cristini right there in 11th place. He is also right now your highest ranking driver, started from 20th, right now in 11th, gained 9 positions right there. I don't think anybody else has gained more positions than him right now, and he might be able to just do that. Actually, Brazier up 11 positions, and look at that, from 27th up to 16th he went, so seems like Brazier is right now your highest gainer.
He is indeed, and done a great job to do that. Indeed, the top 6 positions haven't changed so far, as I suspected, even on lap 1. That has stayed the same ever since. Afterwards it gets a bit messy, because if you remember, Im had that spin, and it really did put the cat amongst the pigeons, let's say, because everybody went everywhere. As we have our first pit caller, it's Antonino San Marco, and so there could be a few reactions to this, especially in the midfield where he came from before. It's going to be a quick stop in the box for the Audi, and not a very long top-up of fuel at all, and then he'll be on his way again to complete the final just under 24 minutes of this race. So the first strategic dice has been rolled here, Stefan, and for the next 20 minutes or so, I imagine it's going to be a pretty much constant stream of cars down the pit lane. It's just a case of when for most of these guys. When are they going to make the pit stop? When's the best time to make it?
Well, for San Marco, as he took 11.5 seconds of fuel, it is a very good timing to go into pit lane. He was held up by Navi for a very long time, so diving into the pit lane, he also started from 18th place, so he went also up quite a few positions. So he was held up for a very long time of this race already, since we are now edging closer to 23 minutes to go. It's a very good call, because he's now in fresh air, he can drive his own lap times, and maybe, just maybe, he's able to now get ahead of a lot of people as Cristini around. He is a little bit of a risky return there as well from the Italian.
Yeah, slightly, and kind of cuts his losses here by going into the pit lane. Let's see how it happened. Was there another car involved? There may well have been. Side by side, difficult to pick out through the darkness. I think this is Arujo in the Lamborghini. He's going to stick his nose up the inside. Oh dear, Cristini goes for a spin around. Was that a case of the Porsche shutting the door, or did Arujo have his nose in there when it wasn't wanted?
No, most definitely that was Cristini trying to shut the door on Araujo, but just he was still there. It was still his apex on the right-hander there, so Cristini a little bit self-reflected there. That spin and position loss in the end.
Yes, I would agree with you, but yeah, I was having a bit of an argument about F1's rules on that the other day on Twitter, and I feel like F1 might see it the other way around, but that's a debate for another day as well, so that we won't get into quite right now. 4.5 seconds is now the lead. Alejandro Sanchez continues to set blistering lap times out front. He's the fastest man of anybody last time around for pretty much the 15th time running, and it's lap 16 right now, so there we are. Scott Brazier as well has got his hands full with Matthew Crisp just behind him. These two battling over at 13th position, and you can just see in the background the battle for 15th is on, so it is for 11th as well. Down here at the back, Dennis Grabau is trying to recover after his problems earlier on. To say he was 16th about 10 minutes ago maybe, he's done a great job to gain 4 positions already. He's really been on the march away from our cameras.
Yeah, Sanchez is putting on a clinic right now, doesn't put a foot wrong. He, for a few laps, controlled his pace, but he's back up to full speed. Or maybe it was just Rinne being able to temporarily step up his pace to get up to Sanchez. Either way, the gap continues to grow once again. The gap that doesn't grow, though, is the gap between second and third. Rinne and Heinrich still half a second apart, like they were at the start of this race. And Sanchez, I don't think that he is really gonna be able to lose this here anymore unless he has a pit lane infraction.
Yes, indeed, but you've got to hit your marks when you're doing these kind of things, and you can't take anything for granted, so let's wait and see. Artem Grabau does indeed get fronted Christian Gruber there for 11th position. That is now an all BMW battle going on, and of course Grabau did actually benefit from Christini's spin we saw not so long ago, so he's been really climbing up the order in these last few moments, the last 12-15 minutes or so. He's gained 5 positions, which is not bad going at all. He's got a bit of a way to go up towards 10th position though, 2.5 seconds to Pablo Arujo, who we were talking about not so long ago, and who was involved in that incident we saw in a few... Oh my word, that was a slide and a half, but there we are. Top 3 positions at the moment covered by Porsches. Then we've got a couple of BMWs rounding out your top 5. First, Ferrari is in 8th position, and then we've got a Lamborghini in the top 10 as well. So 4 different manufacturers in the top 10. A very good show of distribution here up towards the front here, Stefan. We don't often see that in GT3 racing. On occasion, it can be a bit of a one-make trophy at times with whichever car is popular on that particular week, but this has got a nice balance to it.
Yeah, it has got a nice balance to it. It really shows. I mean, you're also not gonna see in real life that all of a sudden you have literally every single car up there fighting for first place. That's never gonna happen. So I think iRacing has once again stepped up their BOP game, and you can really see that there are right now 5 different makes in the top 10, and I think that really speaks right now for this BOP iRacing has in place for the season.
Yes, it does indeed, and we are very grateful for it, I have to say. It's absolutely fantastic to see, especially considering some of the races that we've seen in the past, as the lead gets out to more than 5 seconds now. Alejandro Sanchez continues to race away. Rinne, Heinrich, Fluke continue to be equidistant at half a second apart from each other. They gain at this particular point in the racetrack because of the draft, but they're mainly to save a bit of fuel here. It looks like, even if they can't actually save a pit stop, you were referring to it a little bit earlier here, Stefan, that Heinrich and Fluke are going to be able to at least take shorter pit stops in this one, which will allow them to get up into 2nd position. It may well be a case of fighting it out between themselves, but I feel like we're kind of waiting for those pit stops for these 3 to really start battling each other. It doesn't feel like anything's really going to happen until then up here.
Well, the question really is, how much is Heinrich being able to save right now? I don't think that he is able to save too much, because it most definitely seems like that 4 is pushing right now to stay behind Oscar Rinne. Fluke in a much better position, but I also starting to question how much he is able to save as John Derrick comes into pit lane, another taker for our scheduled pit stop. It is only, I think, 7 more minutes these guys can race. I think it can race to the 10-minute mark if you save your fuel well enough. But for sure, we're gonna see most of the people starting to dive into pit lane around 15 minutes to go, so about 2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 1 lap around for these guys, maybe another couple. Let's wait and see. But the gap to Rinne from Heinrich has just extended out a little bit to 7/10 of a second, maybe a small mistake from Heinrich. They come over the line here once again. They're all that little bit slower than Sanchez, but we're almost taking that as a given at this point. It's just 1/10 of a second between Heinrich and Rinne that time around. Sorry, half a tenth of a second, I should say. Very, very close indeed. This is the battle for 11th position. It's changed again because Gruber has got back in front of Grabau, and what it has allowed is everybody to get involved here. We've got Scott Brazier just in the background, and they're not too far behind that. Crisp was there, Couto and Lorenz as well, but unfortunately half of those names I've just mentioned have come into the pit lane, so that's ruined it slightly, but we've still got 3 cars right up towards the pointy end here. of 11th position. And Gruber doesn't look like he's giving up. Grabow's been marching up the field, but Gruber is making his life a little bit more difficult. These guys just trying to duck out of the way of it.
I'm not even sure that Gruber is really defending right. That's just once again one of those cases where the car behind has to have such a massive speed advantage to the car in front that it is pretty much impossible right now for Grabov to pass Gruber for that 11th place. So maybe we're gonna see a little bit of shuffling come pit lane activities for these guys, so might have to keep an eye out between the 11 and 12.
Let's see, Grabov is very close indeed. Is there an opening down the inside here? Not really, just visibly lifting off there, going into 10A and 10B. Gruber leads the way, and now let's see, is anybody going to dive in? Yes, indeed, Christian Gruber does come in. Artem Grabov seemed to be a little bit caught off guard by that, and you can sometimes do it because it's very off camber and over the crest there. Pit entry a little bit dangerous on occasion, especially if you're running very close together, but they've avoided disaster there. Gruber deciding to get out of the way, maybe covering off those guys who came in the pit lane one lap ago.
Yeah, maybe that, or maybe he's just not able to run any longer. Maybe he didn't take the full amount of fuel that you can take here, so maybe a little bit of gamesmanship right there between those two. As Gruber seems to be coming out in 19th place, which should be still ahead of Derek, if I saw that correctly briefly in our tower.
Let's wait and see. It looks like he is indeed to the tune of about a second. Matthew Crisp is there, Yannick Lorenz as well. They're all fairly far apart, actually, a couple of car lengths between them as things stand. Yeah, that's worked out quite well actually for Gruber, but Grabov could be in a little bit of trouble, and John Brazier might be as well. They could find themselves right at the back of the train if they wait too long. Rocco Baroni, is the first of the top 6 to come into the pit lane. Top 6 which is unchanged from the qualifying order we saw in this race, and Baroni is going to disrupt that by being the first of them to come down pit lane for his scheduled service. Presumably this is going to kick off the top 5 as well. Yellow Volters doesn't look to be too troubled by that though, and Jamie Fluke won't be too troubled by him, so it's really those 3 between 2nd and 4th we're really focusing on here. The other positions in the top 6 look fairly stable, but you never know what can happen in these pit stops. Baroni now leaves the pit lane, and he's in a world of his own as he has been for the entirety of this race.
Which is good for him, because that stop could have been very risky if he would have been stuck in traffic here. So still a very good call by Barone to drive into pit lane, get his scheduled pit stop out of the way. 15th place, 6 seconds up front, clear, 3 seconds in behind. Very nicely done. What is Oscar Irina doing? Oh, he's driving into pit lane as well as Heinrich, it seems like.
Wow, this is a bit of a surprise. Very close to the wall, it has to be said, but full commitment on the way in. Alejandro Sanchez, your race leader, is also in. Yellow Volters likewise. Jamie Fluke is the only man still out there with 12.5 minutes to go. Surely he couldn't stretch this all the way, but let's wait and see. We've seen stranger things happen. Into the pit boxes they go, 1, 2 and 3, there they are. Is Rene going to get out in front of Heinrich? I sort of feel like it would be a bit of a miracle if he does, but let's wait and see. They're close to being released, the both of them. Heinrich goes, and Rene goes, and they've got out together just about. Heinrich gets in front. Very, very smart driving indeed from him. He knew exactly what was going to happen there. He knew his pit stop was shorter, and he knew it by exactly the right amount, and he's popped out in the perfect position there.
Yeah, great job by Patrick Heinrich, able to save enough fuel to jump Oscar Irene in that pit lane. Great job by him. Question is now, what can he do against Jamie Fluke? It is hammer time for both of these, because they know Fluke even shorter pit stop time than Heinrich, so this could be the decider for 2nd place already as Jamie Fluke drives into pit lane.
Now then, this is the all-important pit stop. It's going to allow Alejandro Sanchez to retake the lead of this race, and it's going to resort the top 6 in the way it was before, or will it? Will he be behind Rene? Will he be behind Heinrich? Will he be in front of all of them? Let's wait and see. He's driving in towards his pit stop right now. There is the man we've not seen very much of at all so far this race, because we haven't had to. He's been well out front. leading this race by a country mile, and that doesn't look like stopping anytime soon. Jamie Fluke doing just that though, 10.1 seconds. Is it good enough though? Heinrich is coming up on your left-hand side right now. There he is. It's going to be very close, but up into the S's. Jamie Fluke has got it without even breaking a sweat really, and he's gone from 4th to 2nd through no on-track overtaking at all. Very, very smart driving indeed.
So pretty much just as I projected earlier in the race, Fluke able to do the fuel-saving tactics and able to get himself into 2nd place. Great job by Jamie Fluke. Also great job by Patrick Heinrich, who was able to jump his way into a temporary 2nd place, but in reality he didn't gain a position because Fluke made up 2 past him and demoted Heinrich back into 2nd place. How about Oscar Rineto? 2nd to 4th just because of not being able to shake these 2 guys off his back. What can the core driver right now do? Will he be able to get his Porsche back onto the podium, or will it be a 4-position problem for him?
Now then, I feel like the first half an hour of this race has been a bit of a lie really, and we haven't really known the true pace of any of these guys other than maybe Ascari Rune, who has been doing his normal pace all the time, but we also don't know how that compares to Jamie Fluke's real pace and Patrick Heinrich's real pace here, so we'll wait and see over the next couple of laps as it normalises to see where we really stand with this one. But Patrick Heinrich does look a tiny bit quicker than Rene, has to be said. Sanchez is still trouncing all of them, but it's safe to say that Heinrich is looking fairly pacey, and he's going to want 2nd place here. Jamie Fluke is going to have a lot of defending on his hands throughout these last 9 minutes.
Yeah, he will most definitely have a lot of defending he will have to do right here in those last 9 minutes. However, the thing is, I think, if I remember correctly, the BMW isn't as strong in a straight line as the Porsche here. So this could be a little bit of trouble for Jamie Fluke. He is in the BMW. He has the superior mid to high speed corner speed. However, if my memory serves me right, that Porsche still outpaces him down a straight line. So if they can get a good run out of turn number 7, Jamie Fluke will be in trouble land.
Yeah, it can tuck in behind that BMW very well indeed as well, because it is fairly large, especially compared to the low-slung Porsche. So let's wait and see if there's going to be a bit of an overspeed and a late braking manoeuvre. Surely he's going to try something throughout this race. He's not going to trail behind Jamie Fluke for the last 8 minutes at this kind of distance and not make a dive of it at some point. It's just a case of choosing your moment, really. I would say wait for a mistake as well, but time's really running out for that kind of play. You've got to kind of get out there and get onto the back of the BMW in front and really make it happen yourself. So that's what Heinrich is going to attempt to do over the next few moments, you would say, as they come through turn 6 and now turn 7. Is the run good enough from the Porsche? It's often got pretty good traction, and it's fairly close right now. Looking to tuck in behind that BMW and get a good slipstream. Fluke visibly a little bit concerned about the Porsche in the background. Takes a defensive line already to the middle of the road. Now where's Heinrich going to go with this? Outside line possibly, sweep to the inside? No, not for the moment. He's biding his time. And I'm a little bit surprised by that, because that looked like a fairly decent opportunity for him to at least have a go into turn 10A.
Yeah, watch out for Oscar Rine though. He is having a very great exit of turn 10A and B. Maybe tries to do a dive to the inside. Here comes a block from Heinrich. Heinrich has to go to the inside. The outside for Oscar Rine, and maybe the switchback through turn 1. But at a no place, Abe is going to sit back and relax as they go past 11.
Yeah, they do indeed, just coming out of the pit lane there. Not sure who that was, but clearly not having the best of races. Heinrich just drops back a little bit, and that's what can sometimes happen when the guy behind begins to apply the pressure. But that kind of mistake can creep in as well, and the gap goes to over half a second for the first time since Fluke left the pit lane here. And now it's Rene who's starting to apply the pressure right now. Really applying the pressure here, bumper to bumper very nearly, but a good run on the exit there from Heinrich should mean he's okay. Going up towards what is actually turn 9, the very gentle right-hand kink on the back straight here. Rene looking pretty good in a straight line, I have to say. and these might be close enough for a cheeky one, but I don't think he's going to bother for the moment. No, he won't indeed. So just under 6 minutes to go, and Heinrich is getting pressure from all kinds of situations here, but mainly the clock, which is ticked down below 6 minutes, but also Oscar Rene right behind him, trying to get through every opportunity. This might be one of them. Now Heinrich defends again into turn number 1, outside line for Rene. It's a long way around there though, too high speed of a corner, and Heinrich is going to continue on in third, all playing into the hands of Jamie Fluke though.
Yeah, this is allowing Jamie Fluke to creep ever so slowly away from these guys, just because they're continuing to fight into turn 1. I mean, not really fighting as well. It is a little bit of a weird situation. Oscar always puts Patrick Heinrich into that weird situation that he has to drive down the inside of turn 1. But Patrick Heinrich still able to carry a lot of speed through that turn 1 to keep Oscar Rene behind him, but also not lose too much of a touch to Jamie Fluke ahead. So very interesting. Seems like Heinrich really set his Porsche up for the high-speed corners like turn 1 on this track, and Oscar Rene more for the slower speed corners like turn 7, like turn 10 A and B, where he always gets those really good runs into the longer straights.
Yeah, indeed, the pressure from everybody just seems to have been turned down a notch for the last few moments, but you can be sure it's going to ramp up here once again in a few moments' time as Heinrich begins to edge that tiny bit closer here once again, and Fluke is going to be feeling the pressure certainly, but Heinrich has got to be sure to make a move, or when he does make the move, he's got to make sure he follows through with it with conviction, because Rene is going to be there to pick up any pieces, and he's going to be applying the pressure to Heinrich to make a mistake himself, so he finds himself in a very, very difficult situation as things stand, and it's difficult to navigate your way out of. Of course, the one easy way out of it is getting through on the car in front, but that is easier said than done, and it all comes down to this turn right here. The right-hander at turn 7. Is the exit from Patrick Heinrich, good enough? I think well, maybe. Jamie Fluke just got on that curb a little bit and a tiny bit out of shape. Has that left the door ajar enough for Heinrich to get his foot in and slam it open? Let's wait and see. Down the hill they go, but surely not. It's 3.5 minutes to go, but he's way too far back at this point. 3 laps to go, it looks like, Stefan, and so every single time we see that opportunity go past by, he's running out of them to get into second place.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is Patrick Heinrich isn't getting desperate right now. I mean, he knows he is in the Porsche, he has the fastest straight line speed, he just needs that good exit out of turn 7, but it always puts himself into that weird little problem. Because if he doesn't get that run fast enough, he's always going to be put to the outside of turn 10A. And the problem there is, while it is the inside for 10 turn B, you're really not in a very great position to get a good run up the hill through turn 11s and 12 to make that pass also facilitated until you get to turn 1. Because once you get to turn 1, it once again is going to be a way different story. So in all reality, he needs to get side by side with Jamie Fluke somewhere around here ready through turn 6 and 7, because then he'll be able to have the inside for turn 10A, which is the crucial point where you need to have the inside.
Yeah, right here under braking is where you need the inside line, but if you don't get it done convincingly enough, then you can be shoved out wide through this one, that turn 10B, and then you can be in real trouble with Rene. 2 minutes and 2 laps to go here for Alejandro Sanchez, who holds a 9-second lead now. An almost unassailable lead, you would say, without any kind of major problem throughout the remainder of this race. He is going to take this one, but who's going to be on the podium at the end of it, and in what order? That's the bigger question here. Jamie Fluke representing the BMW magnificently here today in second position in a sea of Porsches out front. It was an all-Porsche podium earlier on, but Jamie Fluke starting to infiltrate that now, and doing very well indeed. A bit wide there though, into turn 5. He should be holding on for the moment though. Penultimate corner that matters here, final corner, a crucial one, coming up right here on your screens. Turn 7, is the run good enough from Heinrich? It's very even with Jamie Fluke, but he is closer this time than he was a lap or two ago. And now the gap's only 2 tenths, and we've still got a good deal of the straight here to go. Jamie Fluke defending the inside line, but he will have a longer route around turn 9 here. Does he leave that door open slightly? Heinrich is going to exploit any gap he can. Outside line, can he hold it here? He's late under brakes. Has he got the inside line for the second part? Just about. Jamie Fluke holds on though.
Oh, watch for
Rene, look at that. Great opportunistic driving. He swoops on by. Fantastic, and he smothers third position, takes it as his own, and now he's on the podium on these very last couple of laps. Fantastic opportunistic driving from the Finnish driver.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. If you have the outside 410 turn A, it is the worst position, and Oskar Rene showed exactly why that is the case. Being able to make the pass on Heinrich just because he was to the inside of Jamie Fluke for turn 10 B. I swear I will get it right at one point. So yeah, Oskar Rene, great job, but will he be able to hold this third position as Alejandro Sanchez is storming towards the finish?
He is indeed, and it's going to be a famous win for him in this one by over 10 seconds, a gap that you really don't often see in this series, but he has fully made it for himself here, and fantastic driving from him. Through the final couple of corners he goes, and the first round of the VRS GT Sprint Series in Season 4 is going to go to Alejandro Sanchez. But what's happening behind? Jamie Fluke under attack. Oskar Rene is on the inside line for the final corner, and he could get it here. Side by side they go through the final corner. It looks like he might hold on here. Oh, he just about does. Fantastic racing between the three of them. Jamie Fluke comes home second, Oskar Rene third. Patrick Heinrich disappointed with fourth. They waited an awfully long time for the battle to commence, but when it came, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and with Rene, you were really able to see how well of a setup he has for those low turns, because he was actually able to stay side by side with Jamie Fluke, and he would have been side by side into turn 1 as well. So let's have another look here from the chopper. A great run from Oskar Rene, sets him up. He tries to not even look to the inside of Jamie Fluke because he knew he's not going to be able to get that, but look at this great commitment through the 2 turns, and then the block comes as well towards Heinrich, and that's what secured his third place right there.
Fantastic commitment around the outside. As you mentioned earlier, you don't often see those moves actually coming off, but he gave it such a good go. He almost deserved second place because of it, but Fluke held on, and a well-deserved second place for him. Yeah. At the end of the day, fantastic racing between all three of those guys. A thoroughly enjoyable race, especially up front, with minimal incidents as well. Very, very enjoyable indeed from start to finish. But it was Alejandro Sanchez who had the most boring race of all, but it's not going to have seemed boring because he's going to go home with the victory. 11.7 seconds in the end to the battling trio of Fluke, Rene and Heinrich. Jelle Wolters and Rocco Baroni had very lonely races as well, but they managed to finish 5th and 6th. Jaden Laddick was actually pressuring Baroni towards the end, but couldn't quite get there. Josh Poulain, Sivuk Navi and Pablo Arujo rounds out your top 10. Then we've got Artem Grobov and also Antonin San Marco in 11th and 12th. 2 UK drivers, Scott Brazier and John Derrick in 13th and 14th. Yannick Lorenz is in finished in 15th. Matthew Crisp ahead of Gabriel Couto in 16th, 17th. Then Gianpiero Filippo Cristini, in 18th. Then John Wittendorf and Daniel Muff rounding out your top 20. All of these guys within a minute, by the way. Anthony Farrell is in 21st, ahead of Franco Ruggieri, the last man on the lead lap. Then Joe Brites, Christian Gruber, Kash Patel, Kim Salverson, Gia Hook, Im Sevi Pla and Eric Muttville, all laps down at the end of that race. But I believe a couple of those guys did actually get to the checkered flag. Well, there we are then. The first round at Road Atlanta did not disappoint at all. Very, very exciting racing indeed. I believe that Oskar Rene is indeed waiting for an interview, if we're going to take it or not. But let's wait and see. I'm not in charge of these things, so we'll just wait a sec. But no, it was a fantastic race between himself, Jamie Fluke, and also Patrick Heinrich towards the end in that battle for second. And I guess, Stefan, before we get to it, I guess you've got to take your hat off to Jamie Fluke for holding off those Porsches towards the end. Very, very impressively done.
Yeah, most definitely. A very great race by all three involved in that battle, you have to say it. But the big kudos goes obviously out to Jamie Fluke, your World Championship driver, who was able to hold off not only the Finn of Oscar Rinne, but also the German that is Patrick Heinrich. So great job, and I really can't wait for them to tackle the twin ring of Motegi.
Yes, indeed, arguably a better circuit for racing, so God knows what's going to happen there. He joins us now, Ascari Rinne, third place at the end of all of that one. It was very, very exciting for us to watch, but what was it like from the driver's point of view in fourth position? It was all kicking off in front of you. What were you feeling and what were you seeing, and took us through the final couple of laps? Yeah, you might.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we are. We can hear you now.
So so I didn't want to make a move on Patrick, because if I make a move, then Jamie can escape. So I just wanted to hang back and see what Patrick does, and yeah, he pretty much did what I wanted him to do, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get Jamie in the end.
No, not quite. You gave it a very, very good go, though. I have to say, me and Stefan were both applauding your commitment towards the end, but didn't quite come off for you. I want to go back a little bit, though, rewind a little bit throughout the race. Through the first stint, you were leading that train of cars with Heinrich and Fluke behind. Were you aware that they were going to be saving fuel behind you? And how frustrating is it when they're just sat behind you like that and there's not an awful lot you can do to get away from them?
Oh yeah, it is frustrating, because they're saving fuel, they don't want to go past, and you just have to do your best laps all the time and just hope they make a mistake, then you're able to break the draft. But unfortunately that didn't happen, so I just had to rely on. I pretty much knew after the pit stops that I was going to be fourth, so I just had to think about that already when I was driving the first stint.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the leader, Alejandro Sanchez, getting away massively. At what point did you kind of accept that the lead was kind of out of sight, out of mind? Even after qualifying, were you thinking of that? Or through the first part of the race? When did that kind of realization hit you?
Actually, when I joined the server and saw him doing the race, because I did the race before this, and yeah, I knew he was just insane. So yeah, pretty much knew that the win was gone then.
Yeah, he was pretty good tonight. I think that's fair to say. And one final thing as well, before we let you go, we've got a race coming up next week, Twin Ring Motegi. How has that circuit treated you in the past? How are you looking forward to it in these GT3 cars next week?
No idea. I don't think I have raced GT3 there actually ever. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I mean, the track is all right, so we'll see.
Possible new experience. Let's see if you we'll see you there. But either way, congratulations on third place here tonight. Thanks for giving us such a great show as well, and thanks for coming for an interview after the race.
Thanks, guys, for the broadcast. I'll watch it back. Hope it was awesome.
No problem at all. It was very, very enjoyable indeed. There we go. Ascari Rinne of the number 6 car, the Porsche, coming in third place at the end of that race. One more word, I guess, Stefan, before we sign off for the night. How did you enjoy Road Atlanta racing in these GT3 cars?
Oh, I always love Road Atlanta. It's such a great track. It really brings out the strengths and weaknesses in cars and drivers, and that's what makes it such a special event, not only for sprint racing, but also for endurance racing. And I think also that's why it's such a big staple in North American endurance racing, and quite honestly also in the world, because of its technical difficulty and its relentless pushing of machinery and manpower.
It is indeed. We're going to a very, very different circuit next time out, though. Twin Ring Motegi is what we're going to be tackling in 1 week's time, so make sure you join us for that. It should be an absolutely fantastic one. This has been the VRS GT Sprint Series, though. My name's been Ewan O'Leary. I've been alongside Stefan Saka, and behind the cameras it's been Connery Maddock. But for tonight, it's goodbye for now.